I'm at Weedon Bec. It's quite a nice little gaff, but I've been here for far too long, and the reason for that is that I have been iced in yet again. It's not been a bad iced in. I mean, there's shops not too far away. The village of Weedon has got some amenities. I've not been to many, to be honest. There's a pub up the road called the Narrowboat. As I said last week, I've not been there. And I went to look at the one-stop shop, and that's okay. Further down the road, around the A5, is Tesco. And also, close to Tesco is a petrol station, gas station for those in the US of A. Across the pond, that you use a different type of language to us. And next to that is a laundrette. It's a 24-hour laundrette. You just put your washing in and it does everything for you. I suppose like washing machines do. But I was 20 kilos you can put in there. Ooh, that's an awful lot of washing. And I've seen that washing machine chock a block of clothes. And here's a story. If you're not there to open it and to empty it out, I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard someone just emptied the washing and put it on the floor. How jack is that? Oh, well, my washing's clean, dear. Oh, it's dirty again. Someone's offloaded it on the floor. Weedon, it's a nice place. So, run the VT. A windy day moving from Nether Hayford to Weedon. I don't know how much filming I'm going to do because it's a windy day and the boat's all over the place because it's windy. I struggled getting off that mooring. The wind was pushing me into the side. Could I get off it? Well, I did, but you know what I mean. Struggled. This fellow approaching says, "Hello, Chris." Oh, clearly watches the channel. Good lad. Thank you very much. Stay at that towpath. Minging, gipping, gopping, halfing, muddy. I remember this house on the way down. I think I referred to it as green windows, green doors, and I think there was a green jag. As, what's his face on Top Gear? Clarkson. Farming at Clarkson used to say jag. I quite like Clarkson's farm. I think he's done a particularly good job highlighting the farmers in the UK and the trials and tribulations of the farming industry. More so now. I think more so now. Oh, look at that. What's in there? In that glass type thing. Bit big for greenhouse. Don't know. Wouldn't like to hazard a guess. And a swinging in the wind. There's a house for sale. Don't know how much that'd be. Quite a bit, I would have thought. I quite like the outhouse. There's the house. Modern, lots of glass. By the canal. What more could you want? Don't know how much it'd go for though. A few quid, more than I can afford. Oh, look at that! How many sheds? 1, 2, 3. Johnny 4 sheds. If his name's Johnny. 5, 6, 7. Surely not all the same house. Surely. It's a nice little summer house though. I reckon that weeping willow has weeped a bit too much and needs to be cut back. Don't know how that happens. But it does really, doesn't it? Nearly lost my hat. For those of you that are familiar with Stow Hill and the boats they sell from Rugby Boats, well, I've stopped there for some diesel. Quick pit stop. I think the Grand Prix teams would be quite impressed with that stop. Out for a little walk, and what surprises me, yesterday I saw a big lump of ice. Big, not very thick, but it was travelling down the waterway. Must be 50 metres long, and along here, because the sun doesn't get to it that much, ice. Not big lip. Well, you know, it's not thick, but it's ice, nevertheless. I've going to look at a Commonwealth War grave. I saw one at Nether Hayford, and there's one just down here, so I'm going to have a look at that. There's something to be said about that. Concreted towpath. I like concreted towpath. I've got me welly boots on, look. Because you need them. This part of the canal's all iced up. Not massive, but when I left Grove Lock and went to 3 Locks, I think for 2 miles, pretty much, I was free of ice. And then you get to an area where sun doesn't reach that often. There's a change. Like there's a change here, look. For some distance too. Anyway, there's the cemetery. Let's have a look. Bins down there for rubbish. I wonder if that's boaters' rubbish or people just dumping stuff. Don't know. These are the trials and tribulations I think that Canal and River Trust have got. You know, they put biffer bins out there for the boaters to use and offload their rubbish, and then general populace probably, I must say that, probably take advantage. Anyway, this lay-by is private land for cemetery users only. Colonel Adam, Royal Army Ordnance Corps, died in 1946, age 50. And this is Gunner Fox from Royal Artillery, age 22, died 1941 in March, on March 11th. You may not be able to read that, but that's Private Farmer, Northamptonshire Regiment, died on the 29th of May 1915, age 21. Private Izzard, Middlesex Regiment, 21st of Feb 1919, age 21. He lives with us in memory. Another well-kept cemetery. Last week I discussed when I went to visit a German war grave cemetery in Belgium, and how bygones be bygones and all that sort of stuff. Now, I used to be on the Queen's Colour Squadron, which is now the King's Colour Squadron, and every year we used to go to the Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall. And I was one of those people, from Senior NCO and Flight Sergeant, that we used to dispatch people from the side steps. So the centre steps going to the centre of, the Royal Albert Hall. That was always done by the by the Garrison Sergeant Major London District. But the two side, if you like, dispatch boxes was done by members of the Queen's Colour Squadron. I was generally on Aisle M. Some of that ceremony, when you're there, it has a different feeling as to when you're watching it on the telly. And I note also when you have the widows and they march through, and I think Hugh Edwards tells a very good story, narrates a very good story, very good at doing his job. And there was one particular time that I note, and it's going to stick with me and has stuck with me for a long time. And that was, I was dispatching this old fella, and I said to him, "Hello mate, how you doing?" He goes, "Oh yeah, very well, very well." And he said to me, "I'm meeting for the first time a man I fought against, who's coming down the opposite steps. We're on the same battlefield." Now this fella spoke very good English. I didn't know he was German. And he said, "We fought against each other." I said, "Oh, okay." So then he said, "Do you think when I get to meet him for the first time I should shake his hand?" I said, yes, that would be amazing." And as they marched down the steps, we had a Navy guy escorting him, a Navy rating, walked with him down the steps, and you heard the crowd clap to, I think it was Old Comrades, the band were playing. And these fellas met at the bottom, shook hands, and then gave each other a big hug. I thought that was lovely. It went to rapturous applause across the whole of the Royal Albert Hall, the whole auditorium. And when I went back, I said to the bloke opposite, Ian Giles, who was dispatching the Brit, I said to him, "That was emotional, wasn't it?" He goes, "Yeah." "Did you cry?" "Streaming." And I think, it's going to take some time, and it would take some time for bygones to be bygones. I'm not so sure how bygones were bygones in the war that's going on at the moment. I think that's going to take some time. It's taken generations for some people, and maybe some won't ever forgive. I don't know, it's difficult, everybody's got their own story to tell. But that was my little story of some fella fighting on a battlefield with a member of the opposition, and they met and gave each other a big hug. Lovely. I wish life was more like that. sadly. There's a big tree. If that was to fall, that would cause a little bit of damage if it was to fall this way. But these have clearly been pruned. And the canal runs up there, look. A wander around the old town or the old village of Weedon Bec. Some nice little places. A pub. It has a pharmacy also. A pet shop. There we go, look. And that's Granny's Caff. A caff to go and visit. A Methodist church as well as the older church. Proper old style church this. 1792 it was built. Ooh, proper good. But it's drafty in there, but you need your overcoat on if you go to the church service. Proper drafty. There's a strange looking building, look, built at a jaunty angle. Rather quaint. Quintessentially English. Weedon is a nice place. It's got a pharmacy, it's got a pet shop, it's got a couple of hairdressers. I am finding this quite strange though, you know, the small villages of the amount of hairdressers. I know everybody needs a haircut, well, almost everybody, and I could do with a bit of a shave. But that said, surprised actually at the amount of hairdressers, as I said. But that's the village itself. On the outskirts of the village there's a Tesco and a couple of pubs, a takeaway or two, some antique type shops, a petrol station, not that you need that on a narrowboat as such. So that's Weedon. It's a nice place. And the Royal Ordnance bit, the Royal Ordnance depot, I'm going to discuss that next week, and that's a great depot. There's a fella called Terry who's helping me through the history of the depot. And also I look at the small industry type, entrepreneur-y type places that are in there. Ordinarily, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a place to go, unless it was, and it is. So if you're in this area, give it a go. And I've got to edit that next week. So, for those of you who got this far, thanks for watching, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, give it a go, because I do tend to natter on quite a bit about life on the canals and surrounding areas where I stop and stay and have a look at. So anyway, until next time, ciao Papa.